Does anybody know what the difference is between sudden cardiac arrest and a heart attack? Heart attacks are usually to do with plumbing, so when we think about our blood, functioning of the blood going in. Cardiac arrests have specifically due to the electrical currents. When someone goes into cardiac arrest, their heart has stopped in its entirety. And so today we're talking about cardiac arrest. The most critical way that we can save a life is to begin to pump on the chest hard and fast and to act as the heart for that person. You're not going to be starting the heart, you're simply going to be moving the blood through the body to assure that it gets to the brain. For every minute that your brain does not get oxygen, it decreases your chance of survival by 10%. So by 10 minutes, you pretty much have reduced all chance of survival. What's also really important to know here in New York City, the average response time for EMT in New York is 12 minutes, and 12 minutes is door to door. So that means someone goes into cardiac arrest on your 51st floor, someone calls an ambulance, average time could be 12 minutes. That's just to your lobby. So what's really critical is to know that you are there and you can act to be the first responder until the first responder arrives. And that's our whole campaign. Every single minute is critical. We're not going to be doing mouth to mouth. Who here really wants to put their mouth on a complete stranger? What the Heart Association recognized a number of years ago is getting the heart pumping without having to force oxygen in is sufficient to allow the blood to get to the brain until then an individual arrives. We're also going to talk about an AED, which is another component which actually helps with the electrical current. It is quite true that you could very likely break somebody's rib as we learn how to do CPR. And if you are, you have to literally get through the rib cage down to the heart, which is a muscle. And literally, if you think about it, your hands are pushing on that muscle to get that muscle to contract in order to flow the blood. The good news is we have a Good Samaritan Act in place in all of our states, all across the country. So if in fact you do break ribs, the intent is that you're doing something good. You can't be liable. No one's going to sue you. So women are less likely to receive CPR than men, almost 2 to 1, and women of color are even less likely on top of that to receive CPR. And there's lots of reasons why. Part of that has to do with the fact that traditionally people are uncomfortable with wanting to help a woman because they're uncomfortable with the breast, touching someone, etc. What we're trying to train is a comfort level that your adrenaline is going to kick in, that you're going to react in a situation, that you're going to clear your head of all this other garbage of what's going on, and you're simply going to start pushing hard and fast in an attempt to save someone's life until the first responder arrives. The number of cardiac arrests that happen outside of the hospital, most of them happen at home, which means that who is it most likely that all of you and myself will be performing CPR on? Most likely we will be performing it on somebody we know and love. If you're home with someone who goes into cardiac arrest, the first thing you want to do is pick up your phone, call 911, and start hands-only CPR immediately. And they will literally talk you through everything that you need while you're doing that until our help arrives. And we're not going to be checking for pulses for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is most of us have a hard time finding our own pulse, much less trying to figure out where to test somebody else's pulse. The bottom line about how do you tell is you walk up, let's assumptively say that everybody's going to be on the ground, but people could collapse on a chair, on a bed, in a seat, on a subway, etc. The idea is that you want someone ideally to be then moved safely to the ground. I'm going to go through and show you exactly the 3 steps to performing hands-only CPR. So the first thing you're going to do when you see someone is to walk up exactly like that and go, "Sir, sir, are you okay?" Yell loud, shake their shoulder, hit their shoulder, do something to say, probably don't hit their face, but do something to say, "Are you okay?" and look for a response. And you'll be able to tell. I mean, someone whose heart has stopped, it's a very quick process for the lack of blood flow to change the appearance. You get an AED and you point to someone, you call 911, and I start pushing hard and fast. Why do you think that I pointed to you to get an AED versus just yelling out, "Get an AED"? Everybody's calling 911, right? And we just need one call to get through in order to get a responder. So it's very specific that you have to take a moment to point and look at someone, acknowledge, you get the AED, you call 911. This is not an easy thing to perform hands-only CPR, so you got to be prepared. We are going to be looking to do 120 beats per minute. So that's 2 per second. So I know we need some music. So let's do Staying Alive, but the point is that this is the beat. This is the beat that we're going to be looking to do. We're teaching 9-year-olds how to do this. The most important thing for a child is to know to call 911. If that's the only message, if you have a young child. And then I'm going to place my hand here. And you want to make sure you're putting your dominant hand, so if you're right-handed, your dominant hand, heel down, interlock your other hand up and over. You want to straighten your elbows, and you want to push like this, and put your whole body.
Dominant hand is on the...
Dominant hand down. Hard and fast. Trust me, I'm going more than 2 inches in. Okay? So this is, as you can imagine, let's just say 12 minutes for help. This is a long time. I'm not going to be able to do this that long. So I'm going to hope that there's somebody else next to me. Can you come over here and help take over for me? Okay? She's going to come in on the other side. I'm going to ask her to go in and help, and she is going to take over. The point is about 2 inches, the base of the sternum, 2 inches. That's the point. This is not an exact science, but the pressure and the movement alone, forceful on the rib cage and the chest going deep, is what the heart is going to get the pressure on. Don't worry about exacts, but we're going to press on the middle of the rib cage, the middle of this, the middle here. We're not going to go over on top of the heart over here. We're not going to move someone's breast. We're literally going to go right into the center. After 2 minutes, because you're out of breath, I was out of breath for 15 seconds. It's hard. Your quality goes down, so you want to try to switch. So you'll continue to do that until help arrives or they wake up. One thing I didn't say, which is usually a really good idea, is to make sure that the area is safe before you start doing that. If you're not at home and you're out in a public space and somebody's fallen, it's usually a good idea to look around, because like if it's an electrical shock or something along that line, you want to make sure that you're not putting yourself in harm's way, but just sort of quickly assess the safety of the situation, because you can't push on an infant's chest like you just saw. We're doing CPR right now for adults. Infant, if you would like to learn that as well, but it is actually much smaller, and it's 2 fingers or 3 fingers depending on the chest.
But you're pushing down with those 2 fingers.
And not nearly to the pressure that you're talking about. And in most cases with infants, cardiac arrest is a result of choking. It's usually something else. So you don't need to pull the clothes off to do hands-only CPR unless there's a massive coat or something in the way. However, as I teach you to use the AED, that's a different story. What we really want to do at the American Heart Association is assure that there are AEDs placed all over, in every restaurant that you go into, in every public space. They are required, but however, we go back to, do people know where it is? Is it functioning? Is it easily visible? And if I don't actually live there, work there, or normally dine there, would I be able to spot it in the event that I needed to help somebody? And most of the time, sadly, the answer is no. The AED is the opportunity to give an electrical shock to the heart. It is not required if you only can do CPR. If you only can do CPR, doing CPR is the sufficient and most effective way you can start to assure that that heart is pumping. It's not necessary at all to buy a home AED. We don't require it or suggest it. You can. The average prices run anywhere from $1,500 up until, higher. Just make sure that it is an approved AED, and then you're not buying it randomly from some website. What does AED stand for? Automated electronic defibrillator, correct? You'll see how simple this is. Every AED talks to you. Every AED tells you exactly what to do. So I will remind you, this is a training AED. So you're going to come upon this individual. Yell at me to get the AED.
So I'm going to shake this guy.
Yep.
Okay. Get an AED.
Okay.
Oh, I know one.
Okay. Here you go. Here's your AED. Push the green.
Adult patient. If the patient is a child,
You would be pushing, yep, but just listen.
remove clothing from the patient's chest.
All of them.
Pack it and apply pads on the patient's bare skin,
Look at the pictures, pull them right off, rip them right off.
as shown in the picture.
And look at the pictures, yep.
Press pads firmly on skin. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm.
This is where you stop, okay? You're no longer doing CPR. You're not doing CPR now, okay? You're not doing compressions, I mean.
Shock advised. Do not touch the patient. Everyone clear.
It's electrical shock, remember, that's why we're not touching.
Flashing shock button. Shock delivered.
Okay.
Begin CPR.
Okay, Bethany has never seen this before, never done this before. What did you think? How difficult was that?
That's easy.
Easy, right? It's extraordinarily self-explanatory. Once you've got the AED, you're also not going to remove that AED. You're not going to touch that AED. You're going to continue to follow. It will ask you to then step back. We're going to administer another shock because it's reading the heart right now and recognizing whether or not that heart is pumping while you're doing CPR. Even when the help arrives, when you see the fabulous EMT arriving, do not pull those pads off. Do not touch that because there's data in there that's relevant for them. Just leave it.
How often does it typically shock again?
I think it does it every 2 minutes. Is that correct? Yeah, every 2 minutes. At some point, the person may, in fact, now that you have the AED, become responding in some way. But again, don't take anything off. Don't leave the scene. So if you're on your own, let's assumptively say you're at home, you don't have an AED, the first thing you do is grab your cell phone, put it on the ground, call 911, and begin immediately. When they answer, what's your emergency? Someone's passed out, someone's had a heart attack, I'm doing hands-only CPR. They will talk you through it. It's exhausting to...
the machine.
If you have the machine.
You have it and you're alone. When you run to get the machine.
I wouldn't. I'd keep doing hands-only CPR and get 911, and I would just be pushing and I'd be waiting till they got there. Because you got to understand is that the pushing of the heart is what's pumping that oxygen. So it's not about starting the heart. So the minute you stop, that brain is no longer getting oxygen, and the deterioration of the cells it begins immediately for lack of oxygen. So if we could teach everybody just this basic, we could change the survival rate. And by the way, the survival rate out of those numbers that we talked about, 1 in 10 survive. The single thing you could do that would make it worse is do absolutely nothing. I really want you to feel confident, certified or otherwise. If you go out on the street and somebody collapses and they are not moving, you are fully competent in helping save their life.